So obviously, a lot of talk has been going on about what the future of WoW is going to be, of what we're expecting to see outside of stuff like that. So here's kind of my thought process behind what the next expansion is going to be, and where I think it's going to go. So here's my idea. Dead game, mate? Yeah, really dead. So part of my idea is based off Avaloren and Kaz Algar, which we've seen mentioned in Dragonflight. Now, there's two things that kind of preface this idea, and that is, number one, as of recently, Blizzard have been focused a lot more on this idea that the Titans are not as good as we thought they were going to be. They've kind of really started to drill this home. The second one is that we know for a fact that through a number of interactions with A, the character, and B, also from reading some of the stuff that's happened with this character, Odyn is not one to be trusted. Odyn, little bit of a douche canoe. So my kind of idea through this comes from some of these here. So first off, there is Wreckage Analysis Report, which is from Watcher Perithales, or Perithales, however you want to pronounce it. And we've not heard of this character outside of these letters. There's a bunch of characters that kind of appear in these letters, in these books, that are strewn about Azeroth. And they speak of a failed expedition to a place called Avaloren. We've never heard that name mentioned before. It's never ever come up in WoW lore before. Never ever come up in WoW lore before. So they specifically say, Prime Designate. I am writing to confirm that the wreckage discovered on our shores was indeed the remains of our most recent expedition to Avaloren. There were no survivors. This marks the third failed attempt to reach that accursed place in the time since I assumed my post. While I would not presume to question either your authority or your determination, I pray to the Titans that the rumours I hear of a fourth expedition are merely speculation rather than fact. So we know for a fact they've been trying to reach this Avaloren place. We know that Odyn has been pretty focused on getting to Avaloren, and we kind of learn a little bit more afterwards, and they mention Keeper Inaria, who has never ever been mentioned before in the past, and supposed heretics that live in this Avaloren area. And again, it's shown that Odyn is really, really gunning for these heretics. So they go on to say, surely you can see that further pursuit of the heretics is folly. Yes, they must be made to answer for their crimes against Inaria and the other keepers, but their defenses are not to be underestimated. The resources required to breach their lines are simply beyond our current capabilities, at least not without jeopardizing containment of the prisoners in our charge. Though I agree there is a risk in allowing their strength to grow, evidence suggests that the aggressive nature of the heretics will cause them to turn on one another and weaken their resolve. If we can be patient, an opportunity for retribution will present itself. I beseech you, Prime Designate, let the fire of your wrath cool, at least for now. Its embers will be rekindled in due time. And they obviously go on to mention the expeditions on Rock and Wave. If not, I fear that we will soon be authoring yet another report of a lost expedition, its final remnants dashed upon Rock and Wave. With all due respect, Watcher Perithales, or however you want to, Watcher P. We'll say Watcher P. So yeah, this is a very, very interesting exchange between this Watcher and Odyn. We know that Odyn has been absolutely gunning for these heretics in Avaloren for the longest time. And this place has an actual name. They specifically mention, Avaloren. It's something that they are well aware of. Now the question is this something that has always been there? Or is this something that has kind of sprung up over time that we weren't aware of
marvelous
beforehand?
Mustache!
We generally don't know. Thank you, UK Ronin. Tier 1 sub. Thank you so much. Hello, Rexy Rex. How's it going? We're just talking about kind of what we expect to see, or what I hope on seeing out of this next expansion. So we know Avaloren has been mentioned a bunch. We know that Odyn wants to absolutely purge all the heretics from this area known as Avaloren, and they've sent multiple expeditions and they have just been stopped. They mention they've been stashing themselves on rock and wave. To me, that suggests they're trying to battle through a storm. What have we been told about that's supposedly past Kalimdor? A giant storm. It kind of writes itself. But yeah, as we're kind of talking about this as well, we now need to move on to the next part, which is a little bit more interesting to me. And this is from a Titan Watcher named Melania, addressed to the other Watchers out there. And first off, the Curse of Flesh makes a return here, mentioning specifically the old gods and Titanforge beings turning into, effectively, mortals. And they say, fellow Watchers, when you were assigned to observe the state of our Titanforge subjects who, regretfully, fell under the influence of flesh, the Keepers could not have anticipated the effort necessary to follow them as they spread throughout the world. I shall do my best to ensure your perseverance is recognized, but for now, you are to continue your duties until a new directive is authorized. It is apparent from your reports that the degree of transformation in Titanforge subjects is significantly diverse. There is no group in which this variance is more easily observable than the Earthen. While some have succumbed entirely to the malady, such as the Earthen who emerged from Uldaman and called themselves dwarves, others remain resistant, whether in full or in part. So again, we learn a little bit more about how the Curse of Flesh was really a struggle for the Keepers at that particular point. And then they mention a whole new area called Kaz Al-Gar, which very, very similar in regards to naming conventions that we see from dwarves. Kaz-Modan, similar. But we know very little about this place. It's only been mentioned pretty much once, which is here. And they go on to say, one particular notable variant can be found in the Earthen contingent dispatched to investigate the fissure detected in sector AR-938. For further details, such records related to geological anomalies. In the course of their duties, these Earthen begin to manifest behaviours analogous to those which would one day be apparent in the self-styled dwarves, despite the two groups being separated by vast swathes of time and distance. In fact, based on their origin dates, I could identify no corollary at all between these populations. Yet, while their behaviours, language and demeanour show many similarities, for example, assigning sector AR-938 the colloquial name Kaz Al-Gar, physiologically the two groups remain distant. Is this distinctiveness due to exposure to the unique qualities of the anomaly, or is there another reason? We require more data before a conclusion can be reached. As ever, your aid in this analysis remains invaluable. Remember, we are the eyes of the Titans. Respectfully, Watcher Melania. So now we get a little bit more information on Kaz Al-Gar, sector AR-938. The Curse of Flesh effectively changing these Earthen into something similar to dwarves, but not quite. You know, as they mentioned, physiologically, they remain distant from each other. So again, this is interesting. Now, first off, sector AR, there's a chance that AR could specifically mean Avaloren. There is a world where AR could be Avaloren. You know, I mean, we don't want to go as simple as, oh, it's got A and R in it, but it's the only, you know, that's the connection I'm currently making, and that this supposed fissure is in Avaloren. And we also know that there is mention of Uldaz, which is mentioned on the Silver Hand, which drops from Watcher Tia in the Infinite Dragonflight dungeon, Dawn of the Infinites. And then we also have a mention of it way back in BFA by the Watcher that is effectively in the Heart of Azeroth, in the Heart Chamber there. They specifically mention Uldaz. Now, my theory is kind of twofold of the way that we could see this expansion going. Number one, Avaloren is effectively sector AR. This fissure is in Avaloren, and the Curse of Flesh happened to these Earthen in this area. They renamed this place Kaz Al-Gar. Now, we know that the Titans specifically wanted to study the Curse of Flesh, and we have seen what the Titans have done in regards to studying other certain aspects. We've seen them studying the old gods in Uldia, we've seen prisons, Ulduar. My theory, and this could be a little bit deep, my theory is that Uldaz was originally a research facility specifically for the Curse of Flesh. This was a place where earthen were taken to be experimented on. This is a place where earthen were taken to be made to suffer effectively through the Curse of Flesh. These specific earthen at the time felt as though they were being betrayed potentially by the Watchers, being betrayed by Odyn himself, who was shown to be exceedingly against any sort of aid or any sort of belief that mortal races can be something that can be used. He was very, very against the dragonflies being created, for example. Incredibly against it. That was one of the reasons why he left Ulduar in the first place. What if Uldaz, that was mentioned in both the Silver Hand, which Watcher Tyr had in Dawn of the Infinites, and mentioned by the Watcher in the Heart Room, I'm wondering if Uldaz is that facility where the Titans were doing their experiments on these earthen. That would then lead credence to these earthen rising up potentially and pushing back specifically against the Titans, which Odyn would then mean these are heretics, these are against the Titans. This is how he would believe. This is why he would be so against them. He would be venomous against these earthen. He pushes back against those, they push back against him and completely close off the area that they are in. Now, we don't know what the supposed fissure could be or the anomaly. I would assume because of their difference with the Curse of Flesh, because of their difference from the other dwarves, potentially Old God related. We don't quite know how that's going to work out yet. But in regards to why Odyn specifically is against these, why he wants to invade Avaloren, that would be the reason for it. Now later, as I said earlier, specifically they mention if we can be patient, an opportunity for retribution will present itself. If we as characters are then able to pierce the storm veil, we are able to break through into Avaloren, and we discover what's happening there, all of a sudden, that opportunity presents itself for Odyn. And we then get a very, very interesting situation where we will have new allies, we will have a new land to explore. Odyn wants to wipe the place clean. There are a couple of interesting factors that could go into this. We've kind of had hints that Odyn would become a force in the future that we would have to deal with. We know how Odyn is not open to mortal races, shall we say, getting to that level. And if he's then able to access Avaloren, because we've been able to break through that storm veil, all of a sudden, we then come up against his belief that the Titans, you know, they know what's best, effectively. We're sat there going, oh, we've just seen all this, you know, we've broken into Uldaz, we can see what the Titans did, and we know that you are incorrect. He is then saying, well, no, this is what we do. We are the Titans, and there's your clash. So, my belief, to kind of put it into TLDR, Avaloren is the same place that Khazalgar and Uldaz are currently situated in. We are going to end up going up against Odyn because of his belief that these heretics must be purged. As they mention, Inaria and the other keepers, maybe these dwarven, maybe these earthen rose up against Inaria and the other keepers. Maybe they killed them to break free of what potentially could have been horrific experimentations happening to them. And Odyn sees that as an absolute slight, as an absolute, you know, this is completely against what the earthen should be. That's why he calls them heretics. So I could be way off the mark here, but I feel as though connecting a couple of dots that they've put in front of us, I reckon this could be true. I don't know. We'll find out in a couple of days. If I'm right, though, I'm right.